for the public. So, okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Yang, and today is our 5th class, and it's going to be about social media management using AI tools. The topic here is managing social media with a tactical guide. And this cohort here, which is focused on AI digital marketing, is sponsored by Elevate Hennepin. It's an effort to support entrepreneurs and small businesses in Hennepin County. Hennepin County is the largest population in the state of Minnesota. If you guys have any questions, you can visit the website for more information on the Elevate Tech Essential program. We'll be sharing this PowerPoint slide or this presentation out once we're done with it. And these links, internal links, you can click on it to access the websites. And again, it's sponsored by Elevate Hennepin. Our partners are Chinese Chamber of Commerce, AABRN, Digital Synergy, Cardinal and Company. And myself, I'm John B. Yang, founder and CEO of Digital Synergy, executive director of AABRN, which is a nonprofit. And just a quick overview of what we did last week here. This cohort consists of 8 curriculum webinars, and this is our 5th one. And if you guys have any questions, all the videos will be posted on YouTube. And if you're not registered yet, make sure you register so you can follow our newsletter. And just a little bit about the program here. There is a program that the Hennepin County is doing. If you attend 8 classes and you're a small business owner in Hennepin County, they can have a reimbursement for technology up to $1,500. So just want to let you all know, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask afterwards. And we have a special guest here, Cece Dasman. She is a social media expert, communication expert. So this will be pretty much run by Cece, and I'll help her out later in the show with some AI tools. So the floor's all yours, Cece.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's good to be back with you all today. I did the webinar last week, and I'm excited to speak to this group again. I see a few familiar faces, so welcome back. Thanks for coming back, and some new faces as well. Thanks for joining us today to talk about social media. So last week we talked about advertising. Specifically, we did a lot on advertising on Facebook or Facebook/Instagram. So if you're new, if you missed last week and you're interested in taking what you learned here today and amplifying it by placing some advertising with the social media posts and strategy that we talk about, just like what John just mentioned, you can go ahead and watch a recording to fill in that gap of your strategy. Like John mentioned, my name is Cece. I've been doing marketing for about 20 years, and I started right from the very beginning when social media first came out. I was using MySpace for professional purposes way back in the day. So I've kind of come along with it over the past 20 years. And today I'm going to show you some best practices, some concrete tools, methods, recommendations for you when you are running your social media. Keep in mind, in this webinar, we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I'm going to put out a lot of suggestions. And so is John when we go into how to use AI and, creating content. If you start to feel overwhelmed, just remember that neither of us expect you to implement every single thing all at once, right? You all are small business owners, entrepreneurs. No matter how small or big your business is, no one has the time to implement everything at once. It's a step-by-step process. So at the end of this webinar, we hope that you'll be able to take away at least a couple things that you can implement in the short term, but then also use the knowledge to be able to create a strategy for the mid and long term. And also throughout, don't be afraid to ask questions. You can put questions in the chat. We'll have folks monitoring it, and they'll stop me if needed. This is a safe space. There are no stupid questions. Odds are if you have a question, somebody else probably has that question as well. So please feel free to ask. So let's get started. So my first couple slides, if you were here last week, they're going to be a little bit of a repeat, but there's a reason why I put them in all of my slide decks, and I go over these fundamental concepts in all of my presentations, and they bear repeating. The first one is this concept of your communications ecosystem. So when we are business owners or entrepreneurs, or when we're talking about what we do or our product, we're probably using more than one communications channel to talk about that, right? You're probably using a mix of some of these channels right here. And that is the makeup of a successful communications or marketing campaign, right? We can't rely on one channel to make all of our marketing dreams come true. So today we're talking about social media specifically, but always remember that it's social media in conjunction with your other channels that are going to give you a cohesive and successful campaign. And you'll notice in this diagram that all of these different channels are pointing to this central circle of your website. Your website is your most valuable piece of real estate for your business. And that's because your website is really the first place that most people are going to go to find comprehensive information about you, your business, your offerings, your products. So before we even get started on social media, if you don't have a website, or if your website, you're not very proud of it, if it's difficult to use, if it doesn't look the way you want, if it's not on brand, if it's incomplete, make getting your website up to snuff, make that be one of your priorities, because all of the things we're going to talk about, you're going to hear both myself and John talk about all of these social media posts that you're posting. They're going to direct people optimally over to your website to find more information, to sign up for your service offering, to buy a product, whatever that might be. Your website is your credibility on the internet. So you want to make sure that it is exactly how you want it. And at the end of the webinar, because this webinar is not about websites, at the end of the webinar, if you want to talk a little bit about website resources, things like that, we can certainly do that in the Q&A section. All right. So another key to a successful campaign is the concept of relevance. And we'll talk about identifying target audiences in a second. But when you deliver relevant information or relevant messaging, that is what's going to get people to respond to your communication. So when you are posting on social media, making sure that the body content, the body messaging of that post, that the imagery that's in that post is relevant to the people that you're trying to talk to is super important. What you want is that relevance, because that's going to drive some sort of response or engagement to that post. And that response is what's going to drive the revenue, right? Somebody sees on social media, you make your post, it's relevant to them. They say, ooh, this is pretty cool. They're probably going to respond to that post by maybe clicking on it or sharing it, something like that. And that response optimally will either drive them maybe to message you on social media for more information, or probably to take them over to your website to either complete that conversion, buying a product, signing up for something, or maybe just reaching out to you. So relevance is this key concept. And this is the formula for achieving relevance, right? It's pretty simple. And this applies no matter what communications channel you're using, right? Think before you send out that next email blast that you have, think to yourself, okay, who am I sending this to on my list? Is it relevant? Before you post on social media, is this relevant? Before you place a print ad, maybe in a magazine, because print is not dead, is this messaging relevant? So the formula for relevance is we want to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time on the right channel. This is it right here. So I would invite you to think about this every time you send out some sort of communication to your list or on your social media, or even the messaging that you put on your website. Is that messaging relevant to the people that are the prime customers for your particular product? So all of your communication is really going to rely on these 4 things here. We've talked about messaging a little bit, right? I've mentioned target audiences. And the number one thing is identifying what you want the outcome to be when they take the action on that communication channel. So when somebody clicks on the link on your social media post, you have to have in mind what the desired outcome is. Is it simply for them to go to your website and read an article? Is it for them to purchase something? If you're using something like, TikTok Shop or something like that, is it for somebody to buy something directly on social media? And that, knowing what that outcome is going to inform these other 3 things, right? Knowing the outcome is going to inform, which audience you're targeting, what type of messaging you're putting in the body of that post, and what tactic you're using, right? And this could be for any communication, for any channel, right? The tactic could be social media. It could also be email. It could also be a number of other channels. So the next time you post on social media, make sure you are aware and it's very present what that desired outcome is. Sorry, I just ended that sentence with preposition. All right. So we have to remember also with our communications campaigns that really we're putting people on a journey. We're bringing people along a journey with us, and they're going to interact with us. Most people are going to interact with us a number of times before they hit that desired outcome, right? Before they get to that point, they may see a number of social media posts. They may see a mix of organic posts and paid posts, right? It may, depending on what your offering is and what that, remember, right message, right person, right time, right channel, depending on what that is, it may be a different length of time and a different, number of days or weeks or months before someone makes that end conversion, right? We may have to be in front of someone for maybe a month before it's the right time for them to sign up for your service offering. Whereas, let's say you have a shop on Main Street that's a tourist kind of destination. Maybe somebody just happens to be walking down the street, walks into your shop and makes a purchase, right? That's a much shorter time period. But for most of us, we have to be in front of people over and over again with our messaging before they end up taking an action. So with social media especially, remember not to always expect an immediate result. So for social media, when we're talking about managing campaigns, usually I recommend piloting campaigns and letting campaigns run for a minimum of, 3 months or so, and gathering all that data together so that you can start to identify trends, right? If you limit the amount of time, you're not going to have as large of a data set to start to know what's working and what's not working. So give yourself a little bit of time to gather that data so you know sort of what to continue doing or what maybe to pull back on. The data is going to show you, and especially on social media, because we have all the data at our disposal. The data is going to show you what's working and what's not. And you've got to go with what the data is telling you. Oops. Okay. We talked about that right message, right person. So let's talk a little bit about how to determine that right person. So in marketing, we call identifying our sort of perfect customer or customers, a persona, but really it's just identifying who is your most perfect person that's going to have the highest propensity to take advantage of your service offering or purchase your product. And right after this webinar, if you do one thing in the short term, I would recommend to identify who your one perfect customer is. Now, you might say immediately, and this happens a lot, right? Well, I have tons of different customers because everybody could possibly use my product or could come into my store or, whatever, or a large group of people might be super interested in what I'm doing. But I would be willing to bet that you can narrow that down into a person that is super perfect for your particular service offering. Once you have that one person, then you can start to branch out a little bit and say, okay, so here's my most perfect person, and here's some people that are sort of adjacent to that person. Depending on what you offer, the attributes of your perfect customer, of your target audience personas could be different. Sometimes they could, age could be a factor. Sometimes age may not be a factor, right? Interests, what people do for work, what their level of education is. If they have a college degree, what area is that degree in? There is no one answer for that because everyone's business is different, but try to think of start from a place of thinking of either a customer, a really great customer that you have currently, what is their makeup, or just, kind of think about who would be the best person, when you describe what you do, the person that's going to say, that's exactly for me right away. They're automatically going to get it and they're going to want to sign on. With social media, especially, we always want to meet people where they already are. Most people are not going to join a certain social media platform simply because you are on it. Yes, that does happen occasionally. It's not to say that that's an impossibility, but most people have their social media platforms that they use. And just because you're doing fun things on Instagram, if they don't already use Instagram, they're probably not going to get on Instagram just for you. We also have to remember, and I'll talk a little bit in just a second about, which social media platforms most people are using, which ones have the highest number of active users and all that stuff. When we're talking about meeting people where they are, it's really important to remember that your target customers, that perfect customer, and this is another reason why it's super important to know and sort of work out who that perfect customer is. Your perfect customer may use social media differently than you do, whether that's their level of engagement or the platforms that they're on, right? I see this a lot where folks are trying to reach people who are in the demographic where, they are Facebook power users, but maybe the business owner is much younger and is not a Facebook power user, right? The business owner is using things like, TikTok and Instagram. You have to meet your target audience where they are. That doesn't mean you can't use the social media platforms you love, but you can't forget to make sure that you're doing a great job on the social media platforms that they love. Oops. Okay, let's look at a little bit of data. So I pulled some charts and graphs. We love charts and graphs. It's a webinar. There have to be charts and graphs at some point. So I've pulled some data from Pew Research Center. If you would like to find more about more data about how people use the internet, how people use social media, this kind of thing, Pew Research Center is a really great place to get that data. All of it is free. You can go on their website, along with these charts and graphs, right? There's a whole, article where you can find additional information. Highly recommend this as a resource. We can see that, and this has been the trend for a number of years, as you can see, YouTube is super popular. Most people use YouTube at some point in time. In fact, YouTube is the second most, has the second most traffic for a search engine, second only to Google itself. So if you have content that lends itself to YouTube, so if you've got really great video content, you might want to think about having a YouTube channel and posting your content on it. Keep in mind, I'm not suggesting that if you don't have that type of content, you need to be on YouTube, right? It's quality over quantity when we're talking about social media platforms. It's better to be on a smaller number of platforms and do them really well than to try to spread yourself too thin. So if you've got YouTube type of content, great. The second one, and this has been the same for many years, as you can see, is consistently Facebook. Facebook really has the highest number after YouTube of consistently engaged users. And this is an important fact here, is the difference between users and engaged users, right? Twitter, which is now X, is a perfect example of this sort of these two figures, right? Twitter has a lot of users, but their number of engaged users was always quite a bit lower than the number of people who had accounts, right? Which is what counts as a user. Facebook, very active. Most people who are over the age of 40, let's say, they're probably if they're on social media, they're probably going to be actively using Facebook. It's just kind of how it is. If you're on this webinar and if you're younger and you're saying, oh, I never use Facebook, or I have an account, but I'm never on there, or, I only post things occasionally because, my mom and my grandma are on it, right? Well, if folks like your mom or your grandma are your desired customers, right, you want your business to be on Facebook. We can see some of the other ones here. Instagram also consistently gaining in popularity. Moms especially are Instagram power users. Other sort of influencers, very much definitely skews female in terms of Instagram. And then we've got some other ones, TikTok definitely is really gaining traction. LinkedIn, in the past couple of years, especially through the pandemic, LinkedIn has seen a really good surge of activity. It's become very, very useful, especially if your service offering is sort of in the professional realm. Making an effort on LinkedIn, I would highly, highly recommend that. TikTok, I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I don't post a lot, but I'm a lurker. TikTok content is pretty time intensive to create. So if you want to venture into TikTok, you've got to be really great at creating that content. And we'll talk about some resources for creating that content a little bit more in the second half of this webinar. We'll do one more. And like John said, you'll get this deck. So don't worry about screenshotting, or you can screenshot if you'd like. Nothing here is proprietary. But here's some demographic information about, who is using these platforms. Also from Pew Research Center, if you're thinking, well, part of my customer base or part of the demographic that I'm looking at or that I'm looking for my business might be slightly older. And are they really using social media, or are they even really using the internet? I think it was about a year ago, the data came out from Pew that only about 7% of the US population legitimately does not use the internet at all. Only 7%. So most people are using the internet in some way, shape, or form. And it might vary depending on the demographic and the demographic makeup, but most people are using the internet. Another reason why having a great website and an updated website, something easy to use, is very important. A lot of people will look at your website before going to your store or dining at your restaurant. They may not purchase something on the website, but they may do research on your website prior to coming to your physical location. Certainly, if you offer virtual services or digital products, something like that, certainly they're going to the website, going to your website to find out more before they purchase. Okay, let's talk about optimized post content here. So here's basically what you should have in your social media posts. Now, some things are going to vary depending on the platform, right? And this is leaning a little bit more towards the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn kind of realm here, you'll see, because those platforms have the most engaged users. So you always want to have engaging visuals, whether it's a reel or just a photo post or a video post, whatever it is, your visuals, you always want them to be engaging and on brand. We're going to talk about Canva quite a bit because it's a really great tool. Canva has, for example, a lot of templates that you can use, right? And you kind of get in there and you see all these fun templates and you're like, oh, cool, I can create all these different things, right? It has to be on brand in order for it to keep your visual and that journey from channel to channel smooth. Always make sure those visuals are engaging. The next thing is, in general, concise text. Most people, when they're scrolling through social media, and you probably know this too, you're kind of doing it a little bit quickly. So concise text that gives really clearly exactly what you're trying to say, a clear call to action, is always going to work well. Now, that said, if you have longer form content and you have success with long form content, there's absolutely folks that have a lot of success with long form content. I always recommend that making sure that whatever the messaging is at the start of that content is something that's really engaging, that's going to make people stop scrolling and want to read the rest of the content. And that doesn't mean to actually put in the beginning of your post, stop scrolling, right? That seems to be a little bit of a trend that I'm seeing more and more, right? Just make sure that you're not burying the lead and that you have something really interesting at the start so that people will want to continue. The next thing, which I just mentioned, is a call to action, or a CTA. This is one stop on this journey, right? People need to be told what you want them to do next. Do you want them to comment on the post? Do you want them to share it? Do you want them to click on a link to go buy something or sign up for something? Always be really clear in what that next action is in that journey. If it's a platform that allows you to have a click-through URL, I always recommend having some type of URL where people can click to go to that next part, of the journey. Instagram, for example, you can't put a clickable URL in the body of the post, but you certainly can put a link tree or another URL in your bio and direct people to that place on your Instagram or on your TikTok if you're using TikTok. But if you can do click-through URL, That's a great way to go. The last thing is link tracking. So we just talked about clicking through, whether that's in your bio or whether that's in the post. You always want to make sure that you are tracking those links so that you know when somebody gets over to your website, let's say, what they're doing when they get there. Is that social media campaign, is it effective to get people to get you to that desired outcome that we spoke about earlier? And I'll give you a couple of resources in just a second on how to do that link tracking. Okay, so let's look at some examples of some sort of engaging posts. Now, the first one is actually a client of mine, Digital Academy. It's a SaaS software solution for schools and school districts. And they have a new product called Ask Boomer. That is a software where teachers can do lesson planning with the power of AI. So rather than spending hours creating lesson plans, you can put everything into the system and it spits out your lesson plan. So really cool. What you can't see in this post, because it's a static post, is that this part at the top here is actually a video, and it shows it spitting out this lesson plan. So for a teacher, knowing the target audience, for a teacher, seeing it automatically creating that lesson plan is very impactful. Also, if you look at the text is pretty concise. If you look at the text, there's another key here and clue that we know our target audience. Right now, if you are an educator or if you're friends with any educators, the school year is about to start. Most educators are sitting in PD right now, professional development, before the school year starts. Or if you follow any teachers on social media, you're probably seeing posts about it. So clearly we know our target audience by saying, are you sitting in PD right now scrolling through social media? Right? This is the top of the text, meant to be a little bit cheeky, but also let them know that we know who you are. We know sort of what you're going through, and keep reading, because this is a resource that's going to be genuinely useful for you. You can also see here, there's, click through URL. There's a couple of them in here actually, because this is from Facebook, because Facebook automatically makes any URL clickable. All right. The one on the right is from the Paris Opera Ballet. And this is a behind the scenes type of post. I love behind the scenes. So if you have a business, let's say you have a bakery, you might be already doing this, but posting things with a behind the scenes look about how you make your baked goods, right? These things are always super interesting for people, any sort of behind the scenes content. Even if you're not a ballet fan, you can look at this post. This is from Instagram. It's clearly interesting, right? This is their costume shop, and you can see all these tutus that are hanging around that they're in the process of making, right? It's a super interesting kind of viewpoint. So I always recommend behind the scenes. Even if you don't speak French, you can see that the text here is pretty concise. They're using the right hashtags. In the ballet social media world, on Tuesdays, it's Tutu Tuesday. So they're using that hashtag. They're also using some other hashtags related to the ballet that's coming up. User-generated content is also a really great thing to utilize on social media. So if you have customers or clients that can give you testimonials, or if you can ask people to take a photo of themselves in your store or at your business or whatever it might be, and then post them on social media, that is so impactful. For potential customers to see themselves in people at your place of business is going to be more powerful really than any marketing messaging that you can put out there. And I always use this one from City Ballet in New York. I just realized I have 2 ballet examples in this deck. That wasn't intended, although I should say there is method to my madness. In a former life, I studied to be a professional ballet dancer, so it is my first love, but it wasn't intentional, but now I realize. So this is City Ballet. And they did this campaign called With Ballet, where they asked people to tell the story of what ballet means to them, right? So it could be a professional dancer. It could be someone just that takes ballet classes. It could be a parent that puts their kids in ballet class. I mean, the first and the third images here with the little kids doing ballet, I mean, how much cuter can you possibly get? But using user-generated content like this is super powerful. Here's another one, and this is an old campaign from Lowe's Hotels. And I keep this in here. Thank goodness I took this screenshot many years ago because I can't find it anywhere anymore. But they did this campaign called Travel for Real. And what they did was they asked people to submit photos of themselves at a Lowe's hotel property, and they actually used them in their marketing. You know, these photos were on billboards and bus shelters and in magazines and everywhere. I saw them everywhere. And of course, on their social media. So really, they put their guests, their customers in their marketing, which is so much more powerful than using a stock photo. For example, stock photos are great and we all have to use them, but if we can have real photos, that's always going to be better and more impactful. Let's talk for a minute about accessibility. So making sure that all of our digital platforms are accessible is super important. We want to make sure that when you're using hashtags, that you're using Pascal case or title case, and you can see an example right below there. Avoid using images with lots of text in them. I'll show an example in just a second. If somebody is using a screen reader because they have no vision or low vision, and you have an image, a screen reader just sees it as an image. It can't read the text in that image. And that's why you want to avoid using images with a lot of text in them. And then also make sure that the messaging is clear, very clear, evergreen, and also, of course, it's not necessarily for accessibility purposes, but just in general, that it's in the right voice for that particular platform. So here's what's not to do. So we were talking about not having a lot of text and images, and I bring this out because I see this all the time. And if you do this, don't worry, it's okay. Just the next time you post on social media, make sure you don't. So do you see these 2 posts here? I have nothing against either of these. Well, maybe I have a little bit against the Packers. I'm a Steelers fan. There was that Super Bowl a few years ago, but anyway, I won't go into it. Both of these have a lot of text in the body of this image, right? Not only is this not accessible, but if you think that most people are accessing social media on a mobile device, when they're reading it on a really small screen, it's going to be really hard to read. Even I've blown this Twitter post on the left, this Packers Twitter post on the left up significantly, and it's still pretty hard to read that text. So be very careful when you're doing this. Here are some examples of what to do instead. You want to put your copy and your messaging in the body of the post, and then just focus on imagery down below. If you're putting any sort of text, like this one on the right, if you're putting text in the image, make sure that it's reiterated in the body of the post. You're good to go. Okay, I have a few examples of some different content types that you could have. This is certainly not an exhaustive list, but just some things to kind of get you thinking. If you're feeling like, you know, your posts are getting a little bit stale, you're posting the same thing over and over again, obviously you're going to post your service offerings, your products, whatever that is, featuring clients or customers. Always a good idea. We talked a lot about user-generated content, which I particularly love. Certainly things for holidays, sales specials. Also, thank yous for clients or customers, thanking people for coming in, thanking people for purchasing, articles or guides that are related to what your business does. Not only is that interesting and a resource, but it also positions you as the expert in that field to post an article or a guide. And then, of course, behind the scenes, which we talked about a little bit ago. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm just looking at the time. I'm doing great on time. I usually go over. So this is the last little part that I'll talk about, and then we're going to take a short break because this is a 2-hour webinar. In case anybody needs to take a bio break or get some water, we'll take about a 5-minute break and then we'll come back. All of the stuff that we just talked about, right? There's so many different aspects. It's all going to come together in a plan, right? How else you're going to keep this stuff straight, right? How else are you going to know what you're going to post on any given day? It becomes really exhausting if you're just posting in an ad hoc way all the time, right? It's always going to be better if you've got some sort of plan. The first thing that I like to do in creating a plan is I like to identify some themes, some overarching themes. And you could do this in whatever way works well for your business. Again, there's no one size fits all because everyone is different. But I like looking at each month, and you can see here, I've got 6 months. You can do it quarterly, you can do it yearly, it's whatever works for you. But I like to identify the overarching theme. So you can see here that we've sort of got repeated types of themes, repeated offering types, some themes related to holidays or remembrances, these kinds of things, so that you have a little bit of a guide for what type of content you need to create for that particular month. And if you have multiple people posting for your business, make sure that you're creating these schedules and these plans together so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, right? You don't want to have this nice plan, this nice theme, and then all of a sudden, one of your colleagues or teammates or employees kind of, posting things just, kind of off the cuff that aren't in line with the strategy or with the brand that you set forth. Now, you can do this kind of thing however you'd like. I know a lot of people will use spreadsheets, perfectly fine. If you're like a Trello user, something like that, also perfectly fine. If you use some sort of project management software, it's whatever works for you. So after you've sort of got your themes established, then you want to go down more towards street level, and you want to say, okay, on this date, I'm posting this, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where something like a spreadsheet does come in handy. I like to use a tool called Airtable for this because it's really easy to sort and sort of organize all of your content. Airtable is kind of like Excel or Google Sheets, but with a whole bunch of extra functionality, and it's really easy to use. And it does have a free version that will probably do anything you need it to do. So here's some examples. These are the columns or the types of information that I like to start with when we're talking about a content calendar or a communications calendar, right? You want to know what the item is that you're posting. You also want to identify the channel. And this is important because you want to know where it's going. And you also want to be able to sort and group by the channel. So if you say, okay, I have an hour of time and I want to knock out all of my articles for the next 3 months, and you have in your spreadsheet the channel column in there, you'll be able to sort and group and say, okay, what am I doing for these articles? Let me just go through them all at once. Then I also like to identify the topic or the pillar message that the particular content is about. So you can remind yourself, is this, something about a holiday or a feature, the date that it's going to be published, Also, what the messaging is, you can write it all out. Attach what image you're going to use. This is another great thing about Airtable, is that you can super easily attach files to a cell, which is not super easy in Excel or Google Sheets. I know you can do it, but it's not as easy. And then remember, we talked about having calls to action and click-through URLs. Always make sure that you know which URL you're going to use for that particular post. Once you've got all of this stuff in a spreadsheet or in some sort of software where you can keep track of it, it's going to be a lot easier to manage these social media campaigns. Okay, so for the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to talk about some tools, and some of these tools we're going to do live demos of in the second half. I've already mentioned Canva. Most of you are probably familiar with Canva. So it's a software that is free. They have a paid version, but you can use the free version that will allow you to create social media content. It already has all of the social media dimensions loaded in. So you can say, I want to create a reel, an Instagram reel, and it'll automatically give you the right size. You can put in whatever images or videos you want, super easy. I like to use for post scheduling, I like to use Buffer. I think it's the easiest and most sort of lightweight. If you're just posting for your business, the free version is probably going to be okay. You can connect 3, and we're going to do a live demo of Buffer as well. You can connect up to 3 social media platforms on the free version. Super easy to use. The Google Campaign URL Builder. Remember a few slides ago when I talked about link tracking? This is the tool that's really great for link tracking, is using the Campaign URL Builder. This is a free tool from Google, and it will allow you to create custom URLs so that you will know exactly where traffic is coming from into your website. So this requires that you are driving traffic to your website, and also that you have Google Analytics installed and that you are actively looking at your Google Analytics with some regularity. If you don't have Google Analytics, if you don't know if you have Google Analytics, contact your website person, ask them. If you do have it, get access to it. If you don't have it and you're managing your own website, like you're using Squarespace or Wix or something like that, it's free to sign up, and they have great help docs on, how to put your little account ID in there so that you can start tracking on your website. Of course, ChatGPT, John is going to go through in the second half. He's going to do a live demo of using some prompts with ChatGPT to come up with messaging. So I'll leave that for him. When it comes to dashboarding and analytics and gathering all this data together, I love using a platform called Dash This. It is not free, but it's very reasonably priced. I think it's $30 or $40 a month, and it will allow you to create dashboards that bring all of the data from all of your social media platforms, plus your Google Analytics or your MailChimp or whatever other softwares you use, into one place. So you can look at all of that data cumulatively, which is really going to help you gauge efficacy for your social media campaigns. We're going to skip Zapier for a second. I mentioned Airtable. I love Airtable for creating content calendars. You can do very simple things. You can do very complicated things with Airtable. It's very scalable. Super great tool. Unsplash, also, we talked about stock images. If you're unfamiliar with Unsplash, there's free stock images there that are great to use to get started. And then the last tool, if you want to get a little bit nerdy, there's a tool called Zapier, which allows you to connect different software together. So an example of this might be, let's say you want to have a record of everything that is posted on social media. You can set up a Zap, using Zapier that says every time I post on Facebook, I want the contents of that post to be put in a Google Sheet, for example. And it'll load it automatically into a Google Sheet. So you can connect things like social media to Google, MailChimp to social media, and back and forth. If you're using paid social media, you can use it to populate custom audiences, things like that. Super cool tool if you want to add some automation to the mix, and have things run a little bit more efficiently. Okay, that was a lot of stuff. So I'm ending my little part for the moment right on time. So John, if it's okay with you, we'll take our 5-minute break and we'll come back at 7 o'clock. I'm in Eastern time. And then we'll start the second half of the webinar.
Awesome. That sounds good. We'll see you in 5 minutes. And the second half here, CC did a great job of building that strategy, the core system of building effective social media management, right? Creating content, vice versa, that can be engaging. So here, I want to show you all how to utilize AI tools to help you create these content. So a lot of people like myself, I'm not a good writer, so I rely a lot on tools like AI to help me with ideas and how to generate content. So let me share my screen. But before this, does anyone have any questions up to this point? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is really, I have a website that I use just to give me ideas of different prompts, right? So if I was to look for prompts for social media, right, for example, I could search for, let's say, how to generate content for social media. And then it'll come up with some prompts that will relate to my intentions. So this prompt here is generate social media graphics for content, analyzing content for marketing metrics. Let's just do social media. Generate engaging content ideas. Maybe this is good for something that we can use. And for those of you who's never used ChatGPT, prompts are pretty much commands for the AI to do their job, right? And the thing about AI, why it's so popular, is that you can continue to have conversations back and forth with the AI and to go into further details in terms of what you want it to do for you. So I'm just gonna choose like a simple prompt here to test it out. So let's say, how can I create type of content that will remain relevant for interesting for a long time? I think I was looking at number 5 earlier. So number 5 prompt says, I want to create a video/blog infographic that showcases benefits of a product or service. Can you help me come up with a list of ideas that can help represent the information in an interesting and engaging way? So I can copy this prompt. This is ChatGPT. I have a pro version. You can use it for free as well. And there's other tools that you can access ChatGPT through, but I have the monthly subscription for the pro version. So basically you copy that prompt and you just put into the input box. So let's say I want to create a Facebook post, right? Facebook post, oops. So whatever is in the parentheses here is what you're going to fill out. So I'm going to do there's options to do video, blog post, infographic. Let's just do posts that showcase and benefits. Let's say for my agency, it will be digital marketing services. Click go, let it run. And then GPT starts to build me a strategy, ideas of what I can do to create engaging content for Facebook. So you can look at all these different ideas to give you an idea of what you can do. I think before you create any type of post, you have to know what your intentions are, right? Are you trying to generate leads? Are you building your brand? Are you just trying to stay engaged with your audience? For like digital marketing agencies like ourselves, sometimes we create content for SEO purposes, right? Purposes where the content can have a link back to my website, and Google can crawl my blog post, my social media posts, and also give it value in terms of ranking on the search engine. So know your intentions. Every post on social media doesn't have to be about generating leads, right? Because you have to be engaging, having good information for people to follow you. So these are all ideas. I'm not really going to read through all these different ideas, but basically it's telling you how to create success story, how to create short video, how to host a live session, and vice versa. There's other tools, AI tools out there, where if you're not sure how to create that, I know CC mentioned Canva. I'll let her go through that a little bit. I do have Canva myself too. Canva has a social media section where it has pre-built templates for if you want to create a Facebook post, Instagram Reels, or whatever it is that you want to do. Canva has those templates you can just edit and use it for yourself. I also use ad creatives. I've tried this. It uses AI to help create content for you, right? So for example, if I want to generate something for like social creative, I can, let's say I'm doing a Facebook story size content post. I already pre-filled my company information here. So like the project description, it just tells a little bit about my company and what type of service I do, digital marketing services. Target audience, I will choose small business owners. And this is a paid, it's a paid tool, adcreative.ai. But I wanted to just kind of show you different tools to see what works for you. Small business owners, the target audience. Let's see, continue. And then this part, if you're not sure how to create the headlines and everything, they have a tool, Text AI. You click on it, choose a language, and it will automatically populate headlines for you. So the first headline is maximize your business potential. If I don't like that one, there's a drop down. I can kind of scroll down and choose what's good from what my intentions are. So let's say if I'm trying to tell a small business owner how to increase traffic and sales, how to maximize your business potential, automate with AI, right? Because we're doing AI. You can choose, like an icon if you want. Save, continue, and it will continue to build the ad for you. You can generate image based on a database. Let's say let's look for digital marketing images. And you can basically like just choose some of the free images here, some are paid. I'm just gonna go through real quick and just choose, but this is a good tool if you're like going to create some ads to kind of capture lead and post some mix of engaging content with regular posts. A lot of times people like to set and manage their posts and have a different varieties of posts, which sometimes one could be to generate ads, the others can be to just to be engaging with the audience. And the other tool I want to talk about, since a lot of us are entrepreneurs and business owner, is if you're not using lead magnets yet, look into that, those type of content. And if you don't, lead magnet is, so I Google up some lead magnet examples. So lead magnet is someone fills out a form, right? And you captured that lead. It could be a free ebook, a free checklist guide, whatever it is, this is considered lead magnet. But if you're going to do lead magnet, make sure you have a CRM so you can capture your leads and follow what they're doing after you capture their lead. If they're opening your emails, if they're going through the ebook, the CRM will be able to capture all that information for you. A lot of times when you're trying to generate leads, that one post will not generate leads right away. Sometimes it may take weeks and follow-ups, running ads, retargeting all over again to really capture that lead right before they convert. So again, look into Lead Magnet. If you have a WordPress website, there's plugins where you can create lead magnet pages. You can have create some type of cheat sheet, some type of guide. This is probably, one of the best ways for you to generate leads. Again, just offering incentives for them to put in the email address and contact information. And that's all I have. I know we're a little short in time. We want to leave like maybe 10-15 minutes at the end for any questions and any other demos. So anyone have any questions so far in terms of AI tools? If not, then we'll let CC take over. Looks like we have questions. Can we get a copy of the presentation? Yes. So the presentation here, so anyone who's on the subscribe newsletter list, email list, I usually send a follow-up once we upload the presentation and video. So there will be a link in the email where you can download the presentation as well. Okay, CC, it's all yours.
Okay. So as John mentioned, I'm going to do a little bit of a demo of Canva and then also of Buffer, which is the scheduling software that I mentioned earlier. If you have any, excuse me, if you have any questions, like we said earlier, as we go along, please feel free to put them in the chat. So let me go ahead. We'll switch screen shares here. There we go. Okay. So as John mentioned, so Canva has social media post sizes already programmed in. So I highly recommend using a tool like this, like Canva, so that when you post on social media, your images or videos are going to be the right size. And this is important, certainly on desktop when somebody's viewing them, but even more importantly on a mobile device. And most people are using social media, or most social media platforms, on mobile devices. There is one other tool that I use that's also a free tool that's just for image resizing for social media, and it's called Landscape. It's by Sprout Social, which is a social media scheduling tool as well. But and it will also, if you're just trying to resize an image, you can upload it, it'll crop it, you tell it what platform you want to put it on, it'll crop it, and you can download it. So that's probably the simplest one out there, but Canva probably is going to be the one that is going to suit your needs, because it can do everything from a still post to videos. And I have an example here. This is going to be the same company that we looked at earlier with that video post. So it's the company that does software where teachers can make lesson plans with AI. And so you can see here that I have some kind of general social media posts that I've created. These are on brand with the rest of the materials for this particular product. And one thing that you'll notice, and we talked about stock photos versus real photos. So this is a bootstrapped kind of startup type of software. We don't have real photos as of yet. So we're using stock, and that's perfectly fine. At some point, we'll swap out to real photos. But another thing you'll notice is that there is text, but it's minimal, right? So we talked about not using a ton of text, especially small text, in the actual image. But it's still text, it's still on brand. The logo mark is here, and we do have the URL just to reiterate it. And you can see that I've made a series of these. This is something that I always recommend doing. If you've got a template that you've created, go ahead and duplicate and make a series so that you can make a number of posts at once using that particular template. So you're not always going in one by one with it. Let me pull up another a video example, and we can look at the one that was actually in that slide before. So Canva has videos that you can actually download or use directly from Canva, or you can use Adobe Stock. If you've got an Adobe Creative Suite license, you can get videos from there, or you can use your own videos. So this you can see here, this is for the same product. All of these posts here continue to be on brand. And you can see over here, this is the temptation with Canva, or really any of these types of tools, is you can see all of these pretty templates over here, and you're like, oh, these look so cool, I want to use that. Make sure that whatever you're putting out there is on brand for your business. So you can use a ready-made template, but make sure that when you start to do your designing, that you're swapping out the colors, that you're swapping out fonts so that it matches the rest of your materials. You can see here, these are kind of in the same vein. These videos that are just kind of dragged in, these are Adobe Stock. They just happen to be Adobe Stock videos. And then this is a real video. This is actually the post that we looked at in the slide in the last hour. So this is actually a real video that I uploaded to Canva and then went ahead and put in this particular post. Anything else, John, that you wanted to go over in Canva? Or does anybody have any questions about Canva or about anything visual or branding related for social media? Let me bring my chat up here because I can't see my chat anymore. Hang on.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe just reels, if someone's want to learn how to use some templates and using some of the reels. Because a lot of times a lot of people don't like to read, they like to just watch, right, and listen. So you know, having some videos and reels to post mixed with regular text images is also good.
Yeah, so we'll let's do stories. So we can see here that these are some templates for reels or stories. You probably saw before I clicked in here that they had a TikTok specific one if you want to put content on TikTok. So let's just click. I don't have a ready-made example. So let's choose one of these and we can kind of see it's very similar interface. Let's customize. So you can see that it has some assets already loaded in, but you can edit the text. You can make the text say whatever you want it to say. You can change out any of these assets. So if this happens to be a video that is from Canva, but you can load in your own video if you'd like, or you can search for another one. And then with anything you create in Canva, you can download it. You can decide the file type that you want. Certainly, if it is a static post, you know, a JPEG or a PNG is going to be what you want. You can also do animated GIFs as well. I know you're supposed to say it GIF, but I just can't do it. I'm old and we used to say it as GIF. You can do animated GIF, or you can do an MP4 for video, and it'll always give you the suggested one. So clearly this is a video, so it's going to suggest that we download it as an MP4. But if you don't have, so let's say you are looking to get started on TikTok, but you don't have a ton of content to get started, using Canva sort of ready-made is a good way to kind of get started so that you can get a feel and get a rhythm for the content that you want to post, how frequently, and start to get a feel for what types of content people are engaging with.
Right. Yeah, and you can also share these videos right to your social media posts because Canva will connect to it. And if you have videos that you recorded yourself, you can upload it here and then use Canva to write the text, add some elements into it. I know there's some mobile apps that can kind of create reels for you too, but I think Canva is easier to work with, you know, using your computer. And looks like we have a question that ATEF asks if these are free to paid. Looks like the paid will allow you to access all these templates. And I think it's pretty affordable. It's like 20 bucks a month for Canva for the pro version.
There are plenty of free templates as well in Canva. So you'll see the ones that have the, you know, it'll note, if you can see where my mouse is here, it'll note what's pro. But for example, this one here is free. So you can get started very easily with basically all the tools that we're sharing here today. You can get started for free and then determine if you want to upgrade to something that's paid or to a paid version. And John shared a couple of tools earlier that were paid, but they all come with a free trial. So you can try it out and see if it's right for you before you pay.
We have another question here. What colors draw the most attention on a post? I think that's a good question for ChatGPT. Like I can put that in. So if you guys haven't been using ChatGPT, I'd say use it. It's like a, you know, how we used to ask questions on Google for answers. So ChatGPT is like a step up from, you know, Google search when you ask this question, because it can be interactive. So I'd say let's type this into ChatGPT here. What colors? Is there any other options to Canva? I mean, if you're good at Adobe Suite, you know, Adobe Photoshop, you can, but that's like for designers who have experience creating these type of content. But Canva is more user friendly, where you don't have to be a designer to know how to use it, because it's really user friendly. Anyone can use it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm a power user for Adobe Creative Suite. I use InDesign and Illustrator and Photoshop daily for a variety of things. But when I'm making social media posts, most of the time I end up using Canva just because it's faster. And it's just a lot easier to do. So for example, today I was designing some print ads for a client, and I was using InDesign and, you know, really complicated things with layers and all this stuff and vectors and whatnot. But, you know, an hour later, I needed to make some social media templates, and, you know, I went into Canva to do it. So it's kind of like with any other software, that certain softwares are better for certain things. I would say that really Canva is the best one out there of sort of this level of software. Yeah. And regarding color, make sure that whatever colors you're using are on brand. So you might think that, you know, red or something is going to be, you know, really pull people in terms of attention on your social media. But if red is not part of your brand's color palette, then it's really going to stick out. You want to make sure that your social media is on brand. So if you have, you know, a graphic designer that created your logo and your website, you know, you're going to want to get a brand guide from your designer that has your color palette, so that you can really stick with that color palette to make sure that everything is consistent and professional.
Yeah, and I can show the Chat GPT answer afterwards
Mhm.
too, once you're done. We have
Yeah.
some time at the end.
Yeah. One other thing that I'll go through before John can show some more Chat GPT and we can take some more questions is I did talk about Buffer and some, you know, other kind of using a scheduling software. Most social media platforms at this point have native scheduling functionality. So you could go to Facebook and schedule your posts out directly in Facebook. You can do the same with Instagram because it's the same platform. You can also do the same with LinkedIn. They more recently launched some scheduling capabilities. But if you would like to schedule for things that don't have that, Twitter is a big one that doesn't have that, or X, I still call it Twitter. I think everybody still calls it Twitter. Or if you want to schedule everything in one place, you can use a scheduling software like Buffer. Another popular one is called Later. It's similar to Buffer. I like Buffer better because I think Buffer is easier and more straightforward. There are some other paid solutions like Sprout Social or Hootsuite, things like that. But like we sort of just said, you know, try out with some free offerings to kind of get your bearings, and then you can kind of decide what you need. But I'll do a quick little demo of how you use some of these software solutions. So the first thing you'll want to do is you'll need to connect your social media profiles. And I'm using a personal account right now. Most of the time I'm scheduling social media on behalf of someone else, and I'm using their Buffer or Later or Sprout Social account. But I connected my Twitter and my LinkedIn to this. So you'll have to connect them first, and it's very easy to do that. And then you'll just decide when you'd like to add a post to your queue. So let's say I want to add a post tomorrow. I want it to be scheduled for 9 a.m. I can choose what platform I want it to be on. So let's say I want to make a tweet. Okay. So you can create your content here. You can add a photo here. You can put in that photo or that graphic that you created over in Canva. It's going to upload it. And you can put in all your hashtags up here. You can see here that the paid version of this does have some other functionalities, you know, like hashtag suggestions, things like that. You can add emoji, you can create a thread, you know, whatever you'd like to do. And then you can go ahead and schedule your post. You can also save things as drafts. You can also move posts around once you've scheduled them. So you could have a number of days out pre-scheduled, and that's going to be really helpful for you when you are looking at that content calendar that we talked about. Once you've got all of those dates laid out and all of that content laid out, you can go ahead and schedule them in a software like this, so that rather than feeling like you are always on social media doing things in real time, you can allot a specific amount of time, you know, weekly. Usually I say, you know, what works for me is maybe once a week I devote an hour or 2 hours in an afternoon, and I say, I'm going to do all of my social media for, that week or the next week. And then it's an identified sort of block of time. You get all of that ready and done. And then, it's all scheduled out. Okay. I think those are my two little demos there. Here, I'll stop sharing, John, so you can share again. We have a question. Hang on, the chat just popped up for me. Yes, it's very helpful to save time. For sure. Oh, I think you're muted, John.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of times. Oh, go ahead, Cece.
Oh, sorry. Somebody's asking if we have time to see a demo of Airtable. Yes, we can do a demo of Airtable. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and I think posting at the right time is also important, because if you're posting like 3 in the morning, right, you're probably not gonna catch like everyone till a couple hours later, right? So I think that's why scheduling is important too, because the peak time of when people are logged on, and that's when you want to catch them. So back to Chai's question about colors. This is what I put into ChatGPT. What color draws the most attention on social media posts? And it comes back, it's challenging to pinpoint a single color that will draw the most attention in every context on social media. And it depends on various factors such as design, contrast, audience, and platform. However, certain colors do have certain behaviors, and they talk about red, yellow, orange, red being associated with energy, urgency, excitement, yellow, bright and noticeable, orange combining energy. Contrasting color sometimes is not just about individual colors. So you can go on. And I think, again, if you guys haven't used ChatGPT, definitely try it out. I was going to say, I talked about lead magnet earlier. So if you guys don't know how to create lead magnet, you can even ask ChatGPT, right? So I'm going to type in here, create me a lead magnet for generating leads for digital marketing. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create me a lead magnet for generating leads for digital marketing, and it'll come up with a list of things for me to start. It can even write and have a title for me, Lead Magnet Ultimate Digital Marketing Toolkit free download, right? So I can create some type of free guide to help with, like a cheat sheet or something to help with digital marketing, something that can be useful for anyone to use, and you don't have to understand digital marketing at all, right? So that's something I would have to brainstorm, but like ChatGPT pretty much laid out the whole strategy here for me, even titles, and it mentions other toolkits could be a playbook, cheat sheet, template, webinar access tutorial. So those are some ideas that I can use. Download toolkit, but this is pretty much all written out for me. And if you want to change this, you can go on and ask ChatGPT to, even if I want to elaborate more, I can ask them, can you focus on SEO clients? Let's see. He focuses lead magnet for SEO clients. So I can ask them, hey, I want to just focus on getting SEO clients, not just broad individual clients. So when it comes back to me, it'll write me something about SEO success kit, how to drive traffic to your website. So this is just some examples of how you can really utilize AI tools to help you, because it's really helpful when you have something like ChatGPT to help guide you. Okay, and we'll go back to other questions. I know we're kind of running short time here, but did you want to take over and kind of show
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm putting in the chat, I actually have a page on my website that has sort of the software tools that I like and use. And so I'm going to put that in the chat in case anybody is interested. It's certainly, it's not an exhaustive list, but it's the stuff that, you know, I use kind of daily and recommend. But let's do a little Airtable happening here.
And just real quick here, I forgot to mention, so I use a tool called Copymatic. It's one of the AI tools where if I don't know what to generate for a social media post, I could just put in what type of posts I want it to generate, right? If my company name is Digital Synergy, let's say I want a professional tone of voice, you can have it, give it certain tone of voice, the way it writes out the output. Let's say creativity, let's do high. Description, I'm just going to put that my company provides digital marketing. What is this post about? Services, and you know, I could just generate this, and this AI tool will come up with multiple posts that I can use to post. I'm not going to read through all of them, but you know, there's tools like this out there if you guys are looking for, you know, what to generate for your content. And so tools like this will help you get ahead and manage your posts and schedule your posts ahead of time.
Yep. All right, let's do some Airtable. So this is just one that I happen to have up, and it might look a little skinny because this is a budget document, and I have it cropped so that you can't see the dollar amounts, but because this is for a client. So I'll give you a quick demo of what you can do with Airtable and why I like it so much. So the cool thing about Airtable is that you can very easily sort and group by different fields. You can also have lots of different field types. And if you're like a Google Sheets wizard, Google Sheets can do most of this. Excel can do most of this, but it's going to be a lot more steps, and it's going to be a lot more sort of convoluted how you do it. So here's an example of a budget. These are, you know, you can see here, I have it grouped by product and then by month. So any column you can group by that. And these columns, in fact, are drop downs. So you can make columns be drop downs, be single selects, be multi-select, you know, whatever you want. And this with Airtable is especially helpful because if you have more than one person, for example, let's say it's a content calendar, if you have more than one person working on it, you can standardize what needs to go in each column. And so right now I have it grouped by this way, but let's say I wanted to just see all of my social media advertising spend and budget. So I could say, okay, I don't want to group it by product and month. I just want to group it by channel. Right. And so very easily, like super fast, you know, you can do it. You don't have to mess with a filter or anything like that. And I can add another subgroup, a channel, and then by quarter, you know, whatever you'd like to do. If you want to add a column, whoops. These are all the different types of columns that are just ready-made that you can create. One of my favorites is the attachment column. So, I'm going to delete this later, but let's say I wanted to create in that campaign calendar a few slides ago, you'll remember attaching media or attaching an image. It's super, super easy. If you know, you can insert an image into a cell in a Google Sheet, but it's wonky. And this, you can attach any kind of file. So for the purpose of, let's say, your budget, if you're using this for budgeting, this could be, and you know, you could attach your invoices and or receipts in this column for a particular line item, let's say, and that could be a PDF, a Word document, a JPEG, whatever, it doesn't matter. But super easy to do. So that's basically why I like this tool so much. I've written multiple blog posts on it. I'm not an affiliate of Airtable. I get no compensation from them. I just really like the tool. They do have a free version. They also have a paid version, but probably for most of what you're going to do, the free version is going to suit you just fine. In fact, this right now is the free version. This is not the paid version that you're looking at. You can also do things like formulas. Over here, this is not built out at all, but this is sort of an example of a campaign calendar. And because it's not built out, you can't really see it. But, you know, these are for advertising. You can even do little date-based formulas where you can calculate, you know, a due date, creative due date based on, you know, when it's due to the media outlet, or you know, you can do all the regular formulas that you can do in a Google Sheet or Excel spreadsheet. And that's my pitch for Airtable.
Cool. And for those of you who don't know what Airtable is, it's a platform for collaborating apps, kind of like a project management tool, right? And also like a team management. I haven't used it, but I've used other project management tools.
Yeah, I don't really use it very much for project management, although you can. I use it a lot more for campaign scheduling, budgeting, keeping assets. So, you know, your logos and everything straight. If you're dealing with multiple clients and you want to have, if you have service offerings and you want to have a place to keep their logins for all their various logins, for example, and their logos and all of that stuff in one place, it's very handy for that kind of thing. I also use it. I do a lot of public speaking. I also use it to keep track of speaking engagements and, you know, which deck I'm using for various speaking engagements. That's also, you know, it's also very handy for that if you do speaking.
Okay, it's good to know. I may have to look into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? We've got some time.
We got about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone else wants to see some demos or anything like that, let us know. I know last week we touched on a lot about, you know, advertising, creating ads. So all these are related. A lot of times, if you're generating leads, you probably want to create an ad. You want to probably want to create that content so you can run advertising on it, because you want to target the right audience. You're not just targeting the public, but very specific niche audience with your ads who are in that interest field for your intentions. What's the best AI tool for ebooks and publishing? Now, Atef, are you asking like to write an ebook? Because even ChatGPT and some of those AI can write you an ebook. But I'd say some of the ebooks here, you might want to make sure that it's not. There's a tool called Zero GPT where sometimes people are saying that Google may flag that it's generated AI content and it can be low quality. So sometimes you just want to make sure, test it, make sure it looks like someone, like a human writing it, so that it can be credible on the search engine. So, because, you know, with the age of AI, you know, the search engine is going to be flooded with so much content. So I think Google's going to have to make a decision on how do I prioritize which content is more important, right? And a lot of reference. So it's good to understand, you know, between the search engines, like I was talking about Bing, our earlier webinars, Bing likes to reference credible websites such as, you know, Yelp, TripAdvisor, where Google likes to look at their own system by their own reviews on their website by Google reviews. So the two different search engines, they pull from different resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for ebooks, it's going to be a multi-step process, even if you're using AI, right? So, you know, there's not going to be a solution where you're just going to say, write me an ebook on, I don't know, email marketing, right? And it's just going to spit out a 10-page ebook for you. You're probably going to need to ask whatever AI tool you're using, you're probably going to need to ask it first for maybe an outline, or, you know, a chapter list or something like that for an ebook, and then go through and take each one of those chapters or, you know, outline sections and ask it to generate something for that. And then, of course, just like what John is saying regarding copyright and voice and feel and tone, go in and make some edits and you know, make it sound like you, make some changes, because sometimes it'll spit out something that's a little wonky, and you know, use that type of process if you're looking to create an ebook.
Yeah, and I can share my screen too. Like you could, you know, those kind of questions are great for Google. What's the best AI tools for ebooks? And you know, there's a lot of good content here in terms of what type of tools platform you can use. And you can even ask ChatGPT, what's the best ebook? What's the best way to write an ebook? Best tools to write it. So I'd say Google is probably your best friend, and just find the one that works for you.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from Mitchell. How are social media techniques used to engage customers? So, you know, pretty much what we've talked about, making sure that you are posting messaging and content that's going to be relevant and interesting to your customers. That really is the key, right? If you are posting things consistently that your target audiences, your target customers are going to be genuinely interested in, then they're going to engage with that content and therefore engage with you.
Any copyright issues with AI if I can write ebook? Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about Zero GPT here. So this is a website that you can use. Pretty much you copy your content, you paste it in here, and you can use click detect to see if it looks like it's AI generated. So I can show you a quick example here. So if I'm using my tool here, let's say I want to write like an article here. Let's say, I think this is already pre-filled, so I'm just gonna quickly minimum 3 subheadings. Oh, okay. I gotta add 3 subheadings here. Digital marketing strategy, say digital marketing services, and then let's write this article. So this is going to be AI generated article, and then we'll copy paste some of the content here into the Zero GPT and see what it detects. This is a paid tool, by the way. Like I'm using, I like to use it because I feel like it's generates good content. But so let's say, let's copy this paragraph here, and 15,000 characters limit. So let's click detect and see what this tool comes up with. So your text contains mixed signals, right? Some are part generated by AI. So if I wanted to make this better, and it even highlights what text is flagging as AI tool, as AI generated content. And I can even go in here if I want to, you know, this tool has a check for plagiarism too, and make sure that I'm not copying content from other sources. Copy content. You could rewrite this again, or you could even go to, so there's a rewriter tool here that I can use. I could just paste this and I could ask it to rewrite it for me to make it a little bit different. The only thing about this is it generates into like different parts. It doesn't do all of it together, so I'm not able to copy everything unless I probably export it once it's done. You got about 10 minutes, so if anyone has any other questions while this runs, feel free to ask. Yeah, it looks like Stu generates a lot of content, but I'll copy what I have, and you can go back and I can just paste it. So now it kind of went down. It was 45% earlier, now it's 22%, which looks a little bit better. It says your text is most likely human written, right? And it just kind of highlights a little bit of the yellow section where it could be AI generated. So, sometimes just if you're putting out a lot of content, just kind of check, make sure it's like, it looks like it's a human written content, because I don't know how the search engine algorithm is going to flag AI content yet, but there's been talks about it where Google and Bing may crack down on too much AI content, and the credibility may decrease a little bit. But okay, any other questions? Got about 10 minutes. If not, I can pull up the PowerPoint presentation, or the presentation. It's actually not a PowerPoint. See if I have it.
Here, I can pull it back up.
Okay, actually, I was able to grab it. We are at. So we just did ChatGPT. And since we have 10 minutes, we'll talk a little bit more about the next couple of webinars, if no one else has any questions. I know we had Cece for 2 weeks now. She's been great. Learned a lot from her. So after this week, next week, it's going to be focused on, we have a Google ad expert who will teach you all how to set up Google ads, to run ads to generate leads on the Google search engine. And the week after that will be to focus on Bing ads, the Bing search engines. Not a lot of people use Bing, but Bing tends to have better and higher conversion rates compared to Google ads. So it's important to learn and know both, especially with the Bing AI tool. Bing is a little bit ahead of Google right now in terms of AI for the search engine. So, it's important to understand how these ads work and how they all correlate together as a whole for digital marketing. Because, if you're not optimizing, if your business isn't on, for example, Google Business, and you're using AI, the AI is not going to be able to find your business if it's not registered or optimized on, Google Business, for example. So a lot of the AI technology, they're pulling content from the search engines, from credible websites. So that's why it's important to make sure that your business content is optimized for the search engines, because that's where AI gets their information from. So again, August 17th, you'll learn how to generate, if you're a local storefront, local business, and you want to learn how to generate leads, our expert will show you how to do that. Or if you're just looking to, if you're not a local business and you want to target national, right? For example, if you provide some type of services for national, or you sell products, we'll show you how to do that for next 2 webinars. And the last one, the 31st, I think we're probably going to do maybe, we're going to bring in someone who teach you all about a CRM. We're talking about generating leads, but how do you manage your leads, right? So for those who don't use a CRM yet, how to really manage your leads, we'll show you how to, from generating a landing page lead magnet and where that lead goes to and what it does through a lead magnet, and using how do you automate that and using AI tools like Zapier to trigger certain funnels and certain tasks for it to do. Like I just set up a campaign earlier using Jotform. Someone fills out a form, I get a email sent to me with a downloaded PDF file, and it also adds that particular lead into Excel sheet for me, right? So everything's all automated. So to make things easier for you all, stop thinking about that. I think it's going to help your business and be more efficient going forward. Anything else you would like to add, CC?
I don't think so. I think those sound like really great webinars.
Yeah. And if you would like to connect with myself and CC, here's our contact information. You guys get emails from me all the time, so you probably know me by now. And if you have any questions or want to follow up with CC later, if you're looking to set up campaigns or posts and have questions and want CC to take a look at your campaigns and make recommendations, reach out to us. We can provide one-on-one sessions and help you out as well. So again, these webinar isn't to just go through a bunch of presentations for you. We want to be interactive, show you, and also help you implement these strategies and campaigns for your business too. So we hope that it can, you find some, good benefits and ROI towards your campaign, whatever it is that your intentions are. Okay, we got 5 minutes. Any other questions, anyone? Is any platform which cover all of them on one website? Tiff, I was just looking at your question. It says, are there any platforms which covers all of them on one website? On one website?
Yeah, what I mean is, I don't think is all of things is on website, but most of them we can find easily. Yeah, so.
Yeah. What's the best place to set up a new website for my business and lead track? I recommend WordPress, because WordPress is super open source and friendly. Where if you want to, like I was talking earlier, there's a plugin for SEO, there's a plugin to generate lead magnet, there's a plugin for everything. So it has a lot more plugins. Whereas if you did something like Wix or Squarespace, you're kind of limited in terms of what you can do for it, the features and options that you have. So I'd say WordPress is probably for a small business. If you're not selling items and you're just trying to generate leads, then WordPress is probably the way to go, because there's so many features and options. There's AI plugins that you can add to WordPress to help your website as well, to automate posts, blog posts, whatever it is. WordPress can do it. I've set up many websites like that to track leads. Yeah, so WordPress to track leads, again, create a landing page, lead magnet, and then look into a CRM that works for you, where you can download the data into your CRM, and the CRM can do what you want it to do, like to follow up with it, to make phone calls, whatever it is, to call the lead back. That's what you would want to do. Currently using MailChimp. Is it still better? MailChimp is it's still good. MailChimp has some AI integration. I mean, I use it to send out emails to everyone earlier, but it really depends on what you're looking to do. If you're looking for email marketing campaigns, MailChimp can do it. Constant Contact can do that. So whatever your intentions are, some of these email marketing would be good. I know that there's leads that you can buy too and use it as email marketing campaign, and you can download that database into your email platform and send that particular whatever it is, if it's a lead or information out to these users. But I think with MailChimp, they have to be a subscriber for you to add, from what I know. So you can't just add random people to MailChimp, because they have to there's some type of privacy policy that they have to be agree for you to add them to use that particular platform. So like I said, look for the platform that will work for you. I think a lot of CRM platforms come in with built-in email usage already, and you could just use that particular CRM to send out emails through that CRM platform.
If you're using an email software, I do like MailChimp over the others, but make sure you're using like the automation features like John was mentioning, you know, like automating follow-ups and things like that. Make sure you're tagging appropriately. In MailChimp, it works a little bit differently than a lot of the other platforms for email in terms of how you segment. So rather than lists, it segments by tag. But I mean, MailChimp is a pretty powerful email platform if you're looking to engage with your leads from an email standpoint. But like John mentioned, if you want to have sort of a full CRM, and it sounds like the webinar at the end of the month, you may want to come back because it sounds like that one is going to go through all the CRM options and probably talk a lot more about this in that one on the 31st.
Yeah. And I know it looks like, Chai, you mentioned, is it good for SEO? Yeah, so email marketing is offline, so it's not online where the robots, search engine robots can crawl, so it wouldn't have any impact for SEO.
Yeah.
And Tiff, last question says AI tools to create mobile apps. There are tools out there that can create mobile apps for you. It's like a drop and drag, just like building a website. So I'd say Google it. I haven't used it, but there's definitely a lot of tools out there that you can use to build your mobile apps.
You can Google no code. They're all sort of under this no code app building umbrella. So if you Google no code, a bunch of different solutions should come up.
Any other questions? Okay. If not,
We're right on time.
Yeah, right on time. So thank you all again. Thank you, Cece. Look forward to working with you in the future. But you've been a great help for us all. I think you bring a different
pleasure.
Different type of knowledge for us all. So appreciate you all. You all have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.